Hi, I'm Paula from TeenageTantrums.com, and today I'd like to talk to you about toddler-proofing your home. The main reason why you would toddler-proof your home is to make it safer, but also easier. You want an easier life. You want to limit confrontations with your toddler. You don't want to be constantly pulling them away from items that they find interesting. The less you have to do this, the less you're going to have to be saying no, and the less you're going to end up with a child that's objecting to constantly being pulled away from things that they are desperate to find out what they're all about. So your newly mobile child is very quick and very inquisitive, and they can easily move on from one stage to the next in the blink of an eye. So one day they're crawling, the next minute they've pulled themselves to stand. In my mind, you shouldn't really wait for those developmental things to happen. I think as soon as your baby's mobile, that's the time to start toddler-proofing your home, although they're not technically a toddler yet, because being ready in advance is the key. So before I move on to the nitty-gritty about what you can actually do physically to toddler-proof your home, I think it's important to raise the point that it isn't just about making it safe. It's about thinking about making it a stimulating environment for your child to live in, so that they feel that they can explore it and that it's their home as well. It's not just them living in an adult home that's been made boring because you've taken everything interesting away. So you need to have things on your baby's level. Having a cupboard in the kitchen that's not locked, for instance, that they're allowed to go to and take Tupperware out that's full of safe things will keep them engaged while you're in the kitchen. Having bookshelves at their level where they can get to those books and have a look at them themselves, have their toys on a safe level, in a basket, for instance, that they can reach and that they can get hold of. It has to be safe and stimulating. That's what you're aiming for. So where do we start? We've got this big house that's been kitted out for adults, and now we've got to make it toddler-proof. Well, the way I've always done it is that I get down on the floor in whichever room you're looking at first, and I look at it from a child's point of view. Look for the things that are potentially dangerous. Are there any electrical leads hanging down that they can pull on? Are there any wobbly pieces of furniture? When your child's crawling, look at the floor surface. Are there any sharp pieces of wood or nails sticking out? Is the floor surface comfortable for them to crawl on? Are there any tablecloths hanging down that they can pull on? Are there any pieces of furniture in front of windows that can be easily opened? That might sound far off, but one day they will start to climb, and you don't want them to be doing that. Curtain cords and blind cords must also be tied up. They're incredibly dangerous, and so you do not want them to be within reach of your child. Any sharp corners on glass coffee tables or anything like that. I mean, a glass coffee table is probably a no-no anyway. I'd probably move that out completely. But if you have a table that's got sharp corners on it when they're learning to walk, you can put corner protectors on there. Then obviously all cupboards need to be locked. Toilets, toilet lids, they also need to have locks on them. Otherwise you'll have all sorts of things thrown down there, and you also don't want your child fiddling around in the toilet. The kitchen is an exceptionally unsafe place, but you don't want them to ban it from that room completely. So you can put guards on the knobs of the oven, because babies love to twiddle knobs. So if there's any knobs in the house that they can get hold of that are pertaining to heating or as I said, on the oven, then you need to put a protector there, because they'll make a beeline for them and they'll constantly want to turn them. Pet food bowls are another great one that you sometimes forget about. They'll be constantly drawn to it. You don't want to be permanently pulling them away from them. So I would lift them or put them in a place where you can shut the door and your baby isn't constantly drawn towards them. Some other things to consider are fireplaces and radiators. Now, fireplaces, if they're open fires or wood burner stoves, could get incredibly hot. You need to have a proper guard around them. Radiators, you can buy radiator guards. I've never actually had to go that far. I think there are certain dangers that you need to teach your child about, and probably radiators is quite an easy, safe one to do. Your child's not going to hold their hand on a radiator and scald themselves. They won't hold it there for long enough. You can touch a radiator and go, hot, no. And then they might try it and they'll go, hot, no. It's a great way to introduce the word no over something that is incredibly important, rather than it just be an arbitrary no for no reason. So they can associate it with something that's not pleasant. So as long as you've got all the highly dangerous things safely under lock and key or out of reach, there are certain things that you will still not want your child to touch, and it's okay to introduce the word no to stop them from touching things. So if your television's securely fixed to the wall or it's down and it's not likely to fall on top of them or anything, if they go to touch it, you should still say no, because this is something you don't want them to play with. And in order to reiterate your no without having a full-on confrontation, especially when your child's young, I always think it's best to say a firm no, pick them up, move them, and either take them to another room or offer them a different diversion. Don't just pick them up and plonk them down somewhere else and expect them not to go back, because they will. And if you have to just keep playing out that repeat, that's not going to get the message across. So again, when it comes to toddler proofing your home, it's about making it safe, making it livable, but don't think that you've got to make it so perfect that there's never anything that you don't want to say no to, because it's okay to say no sometimes. They need to learn. They'll learn slowly, and when they're very young, they won't understand, but the more persistent you are and the more consistent you are about the things. If you've said no once, they mustn't touch it, then you must stick with it. If you've decided that's the thing that they're not meant to touch, then move them away, distract, divert, and move on. So once your child starts to walk, your home is probably now successfully toddler-proof. You have to start thinking about outside, because they will want to be outside, learning to run and kick a ball about and have fun and get more physically proficient at what they're learning to do. So now you have to start taking that eye that you had inside, outside. Important things to look out for. They should not be able to get into the garage, not be able to get into the garden shed. If you have a pool area, of course that has to be cordoned off and made completely child-proof. They must not have access to it. If you have a paddling pool out in the summer, make sure you empty it at the end of the day. Do not leave it just in case they manage to get out of the house, because they're very quick, as I've said earlier. Don't have buckets of water lying around. Make sure they've always been emptied. Look out for sharp implements that you might have left out if you've been doing some gardening. Make sure they've been put away, and any steep steps that they might be able to tumble down, because they won't be that proficient at going down steps and up steps yet. Outside, you really need to keep an eye on them. Make it a big, safe space to run around and kick a ball and make it enjoyable. Again, you do not want to be constantly pulling them away from things. So it's just as important to make your outside safe. One last thing, if you want to have one room in the house that you do not want to toddler-proof, that's also okay, but you need to make sure that there's no way that child can get in there. So to recap, the most important thing is to get down on the floor and take a look at your house through your child's eyes. And each house is different. Some people have got pot plants, some people haven't. Some people have got pets, some people haven't. Some people have got very simplistic decor, other people don't. Some people have got wood burners and other people don't. So you need to just carefully look at your own home. And as I said before, don't just assess about what you can take away, assess about what you can put in place for your child as well. I hope you found this video helpful. If so, give it a thumbs up. And if you've got any top tips yourself, then drop it in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. And until the next time, happy parenting.